A British influencer who identifies as non-binary has had 18 surgeries to make them look like a Korean pop star. Oli London has gone to extreme measures to look like Jimin. Am I saying that right? If not, please correct me. From the K-pop group BTS, they had their nose, lips, and teeth altered to look like the star. Most recently, Oli had eye surgery, or what they called racial transition surgery. They say for the past 8 years, they have identified as Korean. Take a look.
I've been trapped in the wrong body for 8 years, and that's the worst feeling in the world, when you're trapped and you don't feel like you can be yourself. But finally, I'm Korean, I can be myself, and I'm so happy.
Okay, and here is a look at Oli before and after the surgery, and a correction to that name is Jimin. Okay, Erica, what are you thinking?
Racial transition surgery? What's that? Where'd they do that at? What? I am so confused. I don't even have the words. Like, what?
Well, no, you got to go a little bit, right? How does this?
Hey, I always say, you know, when people say, people want to be black until it's time to be black. I don't know what it's like to be Korean. I don't know what the experience is, but I would imagine that you wouldn't want someone to just transition into your culture. I certainly feel that way about my culture because you haven't done the legwork. So what's this racial transition surgery?
But do you have to do the legwork to get the surgery, I think is the question, because I think a lot of people go to their doctor with a magazine and they say, make me look like this. And I don't know, when you're talking about legwork, I'm assuming you're talking about learning the cultural practices, learning the language, learning the customs. But I think a lot of times say, I want to look like, you know, I want Beyonce's chin, I want J-Lo's rear end, you know, like this is what I want. I don't know, how old did I sound saying that?
No,
I should have said derriere. You know, so I just think that this isn't as uncommon. I just think
this is different. It's one thing to go to a plastic surgeon, and there should be plastic surgeons out there that say, okay, you're going above and beyond here. You know, even if it's someone's like, I want Beyonce's chin, I want this person's nose, I would hope that there is discernment within that community of medical community where they would say, I'm not feeling that you are in the right state of mind. As far as saying I want to transition because I identify as Korean, that really concerns me when it comes to the transgender community, because it gives the people that don't believe that being trans is someone's pure identity, it gives them reason to use this and say, oh, look, this is getting out of hand. Now people can say, I identify as black, I identify as Korean. And it's very problematic. And in my opinion, I'm not a clinician, but I do think it fits under that same umbrella of there's something not right in that person's state of mind.
But couldn't you say that with every surgery?
Yeah, let me ask this question, though, what I was thinking in my head. We don't know where the line is on any of these issues socially. We do, but sometimes they're blurred a little bit. Is this where society is going to draw the line on racial transition surgery, that as a society, people aren't going to accept that? Is that what we're saying as a society?
But I mean, is it racial transition if a white woman goes to her doctor and says, I want Rihanna's eyelid shape?
No, that's not this case, though. But that's not this case. This case was very specific. I identify as Korean. Therefore, in order for me to complete my transition, I need this plastic surgeon to make me Korean. That
the plastic surgeon is just doing the physical part. That's what I'm saying. No matter how you identify, whether you got the surgery or not, they have already identified as Korean. What I'm saying is the actual surgery is just altering your appearance, which is what people get. Erica, you're making a face. What people get.
I'm listening.
Oh, no.
That's just my face.
I just want to know if I was saying something erroneous. The actual surgery part is just you altering your appearance to something that you, I'm assuming, think is more attractive.
I think we're taking it two different places.
Right.
When you have a transition surgery and you feel like a man and you become a man into the surgery, you're identified as a man. So if I said something racial and I said, sorry, Al, I identify as black, where are we going in society when that's coming to, like, fruition?
This is I would imagine, like a one case out of how many billions of people?
Well, we know two. There was Rachel Dolezal.
Right, but she never went through surgery.
She didn't get surgery, but she says that she identified as black. That's what I'm saying. The surgery part is almost completely separate than how you identify.
And I would hope the medical community would step up.
Right.
I would hope that they would say, okay, let's first do an evaluation. Let's first make, when you transition, and I do not want to compare the two in sense of, I don't want people to even lump these two together. I only brought it up to just hopefully silence that discourse. But if you were to transition, you have to go through so many different things of hormone therapy. There's a full
mental
protocol,
therapy.
exactly, medical protocol to help people transition, because they have seen that when you identify as male and then you transition from female to male or vice versa, that when you do complete that physical transformation, that your odds, and I'm only going to break it down to suicide, but your odds of like wanting to commit suicide or attempting to commit suicide or committing suicide immediately decrease, because you actually feel seen and heard. Because finally you are true to yourself. Right. I don't want those two things to be conflated, and I do think this is a really small, maybe 1 in a billion cases.
I think it's a large one. I think most people alter their appearance to look like somebody or that they find attractive, and I think that's what they did.
Different than saying I'm Korean. That's not fair. Than me saying I'm black. That's not fair to you and Erica, given everything that you've gone through your whole life.
I think depending on where you grew up, I think whether you announce it to the world, you might identify as that. If you're a white dude that grew up in the hood in Chicago your whole life and all your friends are black and all the women that you love and are attracted to are black, I'm not saying that you would go and put it on Facebook, but I'm sure you're not worried about going to a picnic with all black folks. You're used to...
Right, but they're also not worried about being pulled over by a police officer.
Well, yeah, and let me just say this too. As a black girl from the west side of Chicago, you're a white person who lives in a predominantly black neighborhood, the same way as when we moved to the suburbs and when I was in junior high, I was a black girl who went to school in a predominantly white community. I'm
talking about like
identify.
from the dirt, like when you were first born to however old you are. If you grew up in that community and everybody you've been looking at your whole life looks a certain way, I would feel that you would identify with that. You would feel
you could identify with being from Garfield Park. You don't identify yourself as a black person.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. Not as a black person with black culture.
Yeah, culture is different.
Cultural, right? And cultural also can be about where you live. Like in terms of, yes, I understand what you're saying. That's environmental. But the thing about race isn't environmental. It's biological.
Right.
So you have to understand the difference.
Oh, we saw that. We saw that with the author when Obama was like his first week in office, and the police officer Henry Louis Gates. Remember, the police officer showed up at his house and tried to arrest him. He was a black man, super famous, but in a white area, and he realized, I'm sure, that as a black man, no matter how successful, that police officer saw him as a black man and didn't believe he lived in that house. So there is a reason that yes, your race will always identify you to the police as a potential threat or a non-threat. But culturally, I think a black kid that grew up in the hood his whole life, or just in a black area, identifies with black music, black food, black culture, black dress, sees himself as a black person. Not a black person, culturally, as a black advocate.
What Al is saying is that we're brothers and no one can say anything about it.
Exactly.
That's what he's saying.